The dusty winds of Wyoming carried silence across the barren ranch lands. Jacob Hale, the loner rancher, stood by the weathered post near the rail stop, his hat low over his eyes. Life on the frontier had carved his face into stone, his solitude into armor. Yet today something different stirred in him, anticipation. Months earlier, he had written a letter through the mail-order bride agency, hoping for companionship, perhaps a gentle woman who might soften the sharp edges of his days. The whistle of the arriving wagon train echoed across the plains, pulling his gaze forward. As the door opened, Jacob's heart tightened. A woman stepped down, taller than him by inches and twice his size. Her frame broad, her cheeks flushed, her dress struggling to keep up with her figure. The townsfolk whispered and snickered, but Jacob's hand tightened around the reins he held. Her name was Martha. She looked around with a mixture of defiance and shame, her large hands clutching the strap of a small, worn satchel. This was not how she had dreamed of meeting her husband, before a crowd, with whispers pricking her skin like needles. She saw Jacob, the man who had written to her, the one whose words on paper had promised kindness. But now she feared he would turn away, just as so many men had done before. Martha had grown used to rejection. Her size was always the first, a thing people saw, and rarely what lay beyond it. Yet Jacob did not move. His eyes studied her, not with ridicule, but with something unreadable, something heavy. She swallowed hard, lifted her chin, and stepped forward, each movement weighed down by doubt. Was this to be another cruel twist of fate, or the beginning of something new? Jacob's heart beat with a strange rhythm as Martha stopped before him. She was not the woman he had imagined in the lonely nights when he read her letters, but the honesty of her eyes mirrored every word she had written. There was strength in her presence, not the delicate softness he had once hoped for, but a different kind, forged through endurance. "Mr. Hale?" she asked, her voice steady though. Her hands trembled. He nodded, tipping his hat. The snickers from nearby grew louder, one man muttering, "Looks like the rancher got more than he bargained for." Jacob's jaw tightened. With deliberate calm, he took Martha's satchel from her hands, ignoring the whispers, and said simply, "Come with me." For the first time in years, he felt the need to shield someone, to stand against the cruelty of others. And in Martha's startled eyes, he saw gratitude spark. The ride to Jacob's ranch was quiet, the rhythm of the horse hooves filling the silence between them. Martha sat stiffly, staring at the open plains. She thought of the life ahead. Chores, loneliness, perhaps even rejection behind closed doors. Yet Jacob surprised her. At the ranch, he helped her down gently, his hand steady, his voice low. "It's not much, but it's home." Martha gazed at the small cabin, the corral, the wide skies. It was nothing like the bustling city she had left, but it held a quiet strength. Inside, the table was set with a simple meal, bread and beans. "I wasn't sure what you'd like," Jacob said awkwardly. Martha blinked, realizing he had prepared for her. A warmth bloomed in her chest, fragile and new. For the first time that day, she smiled, small, tentative, but enough to change the air between them. Days turned into weeks, and Martha proved herself far beyond Jacob's expectations. She could cook heartily, mend fences, and even wrangle, a stubborn calf without breaking a sweat. Her laughter, once hidden, began to spill into the ranch house, echoing against the wooden beams. Yet the townsfolk did not let her be. Each trip to town was a trial of stares and whispers. One evening, as they rode back from the mercantile, Martha's face burned with humiliation. "You don't have to stand with me," she murmured, voice thick. "You could send me away, no one would blame you." Jacob reined in the horse, turning to her sharply. "Send you away?" His voice cut like steel. "Martha, this ranch was empty before you. You've filled it with life. If anyone can't see that, it's their blindness, not yours." Tears welled in her eyes, for his words struck deeper than any cruelty. One night, A storm rolled over the plains, fierce and unrelenting. The roof rattled and thunder shook the walls. Martha rushed to help Jacob secure the barn, rain soaking them both. As they worked side by side, fighting the storm's fury, Jacob looked at her, soaked dress clinging, hair wild, eyes fierce. She wasn't fragile porcelain. She was iron wrapped in flesh, unyielding and alive. When the storm passed, they collapsed inside, laughter spilling from their lips as the fire crackled. Jacob reached for her hand, his calloused fingers covering hers. "You were never what I expected," he whispered, "but you're exactly what I needed." Martha's breath caught, her heart racing. In that moment, she realized she was no longer the woman who had stepped off the wagon in shame. She was a wife, a partner, cherished not despite her size, but for the strength and heart it carried. By spring, the ranch flourished, and so did their bond. Martha tended the garden, Jacob repaired the fences, and together they built a rhythm, a life carved from the stubborn soil of the West. When neighbors visited, curiosity giving way to respect, they saw not a mismatched pair, but a couple bound by something stronger than appearances. Martha's confidence grew, her laughter unrestrained, her presence filling every corner of the homestead. Jacob found himself waiting for that laughter each day, as vital to him as water in the desert. One evening, beneath the blooming sky, he took her hand and spoke words he had never said aloud. "I don't just thank you for being here, Martha. I love you." Her breath stilled, then tears slipped down her cheeks, not of sorrow but of joy. She whispered back, voice trembling, "And I love you, Jacob Hale." Years later, their story became a quiet legend in the nearby towns. Children whispered of the rancher who chose love over whispers and the woman who stood tall despite the world's scorn. Their home grew with time, laughter, children, and the unshakable bond between two unlikely souls. Martha never forgot the day. She stepped off the wagon mocked and ridiculed, but whenever she remembered, she also remembered the man who looked past the surface and saw her heart. And Jacob, once a loner, never forgot the woman who turned his silence into song. The Wild West was harsh, unforgiving, and often cruel. Yet, in its dust and danger, it had given them something rare and fierce, a love that defied judgment, endured storms, and proved stronger than the wild land itself. For them, the frontier was no longer empty. It was home, because they had found each other.